Hi there, I'm Jeff Nieuwenburg and of Murphy Battista LLP, and we're going to start in a moment a presentation about hiring a lawyer and what to expect, what to do, and what not to do. All right, so if you're involved in a car accident, you're going to have to deal with some first things first, dealing with calling the police or ambulance if that's required, getting the medical care that you need. May have to call in to your boss or to let them know that you're not going to make it in, call family, all that sort of stuff. Later down the road, you may be looking to hire a lawyer. And a lot of people don't know precisely where to start when, okay, I need a lawyer, where do I go? One thing that's helpful to do is to talk to family members, friends, coworkers. Have you had an injury before? You might know somebody who's gone through the process before, and hopefully they like their lawyer. And if they had a good experience, then you might want to talk to them about whether you could go and meet with that lawyer, right? Another thing that's helpful to do is to go online and do your own research, because just because it worked out for your friend or your coworker doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right lawyer for you. So going online, nowadays everybody types in personal injury lawyer, ICBC lawyer into Google and sees what pops up. And what pops up is 4 ads and then a map showing a few firms that have paid for the privilege of being first on the list. So it very easily can become a complex process of, hey, there's lots of firms out there, which one's going to be best for me? So the other places people will hear about personal injury firms is there's ads. The other day there was a 2-page ad on the front of the Vancouver Sun. There's ads on TV, there's billboards, particularly I think if you're driving the Coquihalla or over on the Island Highway, there's signs everywhere. But just because a firm's advertised doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right firm for you. And it means that if you choose to hire that firm, that you're paying for that advertising. So once you get onto Google, you find a firm, you're going to find that everybody has their own website, right? So it's helpful to go on there, find different information that they have about different types of claims, and you can read about the lawyers that are on that are in their firm. Most firms will have websites. You'll be able to see the photo of the lawyer that you're potentially going to be meeting with, and often they'll list previous cases that they've done and that sort of thing, right? If you're not sure whether the person you're talking to or not is a lawyer, sometimes you'll call in and to a firm, and the staff are quite helpful. Paralegals and legal assistants often know a lot of things some things that lawyers are not as familiar with, because we don't deal with certain aspects of things on a daily basis. But you also want to be able to interact with the lawyer you're potentially hiring, right? So that you know who's handling your claim all the way through. It's also not a bad idea if you come in and meet the lawyer to ask, hey, who do you typically work with? Who's the assistant I might be dealing with? While I'm here, if they're here, would I like to meet them as well? Because it's not just going to be the lawyer working on your claim, you're also going to be potentially working with paralegals and legal assistants as well. The Law Society website, if you're concerned whether the person you're dealing with is actually a lawyer or not and you want to find out, the Law Society of British Columbia website, you can go on. You can see whether they are a practicing member. It also shows how long they've been practicing, and if there is any disciplinary actions by the Law Society against them, you can also find that out there. So, who's the right lawyer for your case? First of all, you want to know that the lawyer that you hire is somebody who practices personal injury, right? If you're involved in an accident or another sort of accident. Lots of lawyers practice in different fields. They specialize as solicitors. They do business transactions. They do wills, estates, family law or divorce, immigration law. And so the law is a very specialized field, and it's kind of hard to be a Renaissance man and everything. So you want to hire somebody that knows the area and has done it before many times, and can go to trial if need be. Most claims do settle before trial. Something like 95% of the motor vehicle claims that go forward settle before trial, just because it's in the best interest of parties to reach a settlement that they know is certain, instead of potentially risking going to trial. Also, it can be intimidating testifying, that sort of thing. And the insurance companies are encouraged to settle because trial is expensive. So most claims settle, but you want to have a lawyer who's prepared to go to trial if need be. And even if your claim settles, you want a lawyer who's prepared to go to trial, because when they're negotiating with ICBC or the other defense lawyer, if it's not an ICBC claim, they know which lawyers go to trial and which ones don't. So the amount that you get in a settlement may be less if you push forward with a lawyer who the other side doesn't think is prepared to actually go to trial, if you don't get the settlement that you need. Also, if you have a lawyer who's prepared and expecting that they may need to go to trial, they'll prepare the case so that it's ready to go to trial. They'll get all of the evidence that they need. They'll get all the records that they need. They'll send you to the doctors that you need to see, so that your case is ready to go to trial, and so that it's ready for settlement as well. As I was speaking before, if you go on a website, there'll usually be photos, a bio. This is mine. I didn't want to put anybody else's on here. So this is mine. And it will also often list, sometimes there'll be things like this video that are posted up on the website. They can give you further information about the claim, also give you a chance to see the lawyer you're dealing with and what their personality might be like, that sort of thing. And also will list cases they've been in before. So you want to make sure that the lawyer you're hiring goes to court, right, that they deal with these sorts of claims. And if you also want to find out what sort of results they've had in the past, you can read their judgments. If they're, so those are some of my cases that are listed there. If the lawyer you're looking at, sometimes people are shy, they don't like to list the cases that they have. If the lawyer you are looking at hiring doesn't have cases listed on their website, the government still publishes them. So they're still published on the court website, as well as there's a public service website that the Law Society helps fund, called Canley. So it's actually a lot easier to search than the courthouse website. And you can go on there, type in the lawyer's name, and all of the decisions that it helps if they have a distinctive name, not like a Smith. Nieuwenburg, with all those vowels, is a little bit more distinctive and easier to search. But it will come up with all of the decisions that they've been involved with before, except for some jury trial decisions, because juries don't write decisions, they don't show up there. So this is just if you pump my name in, these are some decisions on the BC Court website, and then this is just how it looks on the Canley website. So what does it cost to hire a lawyer? Personal injury lawyers, most of them, I would say pretty much all of them, will do a free consultation. So you can talk to them over the phone. You might have to talk to a legal assistant or paralegal first to get the original or the basic details of your claim, and because lawyers are in trial, and the sort of ones you potentially want to hire are in trial. So, but most lawyers will do a free consultation either over the phone or in person. And there's no real downside to doing that, to going in, to meeting with them, to telling them about your claim, and getting some free legal advice of what they think of your claim, what they think the next steps are. And then you can decide whether to sign with them or to go meet with somebody else or to just wait, whatever decision you need to make. So there's really no downside to going in and doing a free consultation. One of the big questions people have is, how do lawyers charge? Most personal injury lawyers don't charge hourly, right? So the stereotype is that lawyers have billable hours and that sort of thing. They have an hourly rate. Most personal injury lawyers bill a percentage of what's recovered, either through settlement or through a judgment, a judicial decision. So that's called a contingency fee. And most, if not all, personal injury lawyers work on a contingency fee. The other expenses or charges that you would likely have in addition to a contingency fee would be expenses. Lawyers call them disbursements. And usually those are recovered from the defendant or from ICBC at the end of the claim. So how much are lawyers allowed to charge? There's actually a limit on how much lawyers are allowed to charge in British Columbia. So for motor vehicle claims, the most you can bill is a third, 33 and a third, right? Or 33, threes forever. And for non-motor vehicle claims, it's 40%. So if you go in and you meet with a lawyer and they quote you their contingency fee of a third or 40%, there's really no downside for you going and meeting with a bunch of other lawyers and seeing who is the best one for you, because the fee percentage is going to be potentially the same whoever you go and see. If in real terms, it would be bigger if your lawyer ends up settling your claim or going to trial and getting more awarded, which is generally the incentive that you want your lawyer to have. You do better for me, that's also better for you, right? And with the contingency fee agreement, the expenses are still payable if you're not successful in the claim, but the percentage, of course, is based on what result you get at the end. So if that result is nothing, then a percentage of nothing is nothing. So if you're going to meet with a lawyer, what should you bring? What should you expect? It's helpful to bring papers if you have them related to the accident. So sometimes people get, the police come out and the police give them their card, or they give them a copy of the, lawyers call it the MV-6020, the police report. You may get notes from your doctor, so your doctor will refer you to for certain treatment, that sort of thing. It's helpful to bring that in so that from the beginning, the person the lawyer you're planning on hiring has an idea of what sort of steps have already been taken and what treatment you're likely going to be receiving. If you took photos at the scene of the accident, if you had you weren't busy calling for police and ambulance and that sort of thing, and you were able to take photos, it's good to bring those or to email them to the lawyer beforehand so that they can see what the accident scene looked like. And it's a good idea when you're meeting with the lawyer to show that to them at the beginning, because if you're going through the meeting and you're talking about the accident and that sort of thing, and then there's more and more paper kind of coming out of the briefcase or the purse or wallet as the meeting goes on, it just kind of throws the course of the meeting. And it's a good idea for the lawyer to kind of have an idea of, okay, while they're dealing and asking certain questions, that they kind of have the best full picture that they can. So what sort of information is a lawyer going to ask you about? They'll ask you a lot of personal questions about, they need to know obviously your legal name, your date of birth, phone number, email address, so they can get hold of you, and your social insurance number and your provincial health number or care card. And the reason they'll need that is if they're going to go ahead and request records from doctors and that sort of thing, or they need to get tax returns if you've been off work for a period of time. They'll need to have that information so that they can go ahead and get those records. But they'll only need to use that if you choose to hire them and push forward with the claim. What sort of information are they going to need about the collision? So obviously they're going to need you to tell them about the circumstances of the collision, how it happened. The date is important. It's also important whether you were working or not, because if you're working, you may have a WorkSafe BC claim, and in certain circumstances that can prevent you from having an ICBC claim. But you'll need to talk to the lawyer about it to see how the law will apply to you in those circumstances. If you've spoken to ICBC and they've given you a claim number, it's helpful to bring that. That just means that ICBC is not going to spend a bunch of time trying to find your file. If you have witness information, it's helpful to bring that and contact information. And you're also going to want to let the lawyer know who attended at the scene. So if the police came, then there's probably a police report. If ambulance showed up, then they'll prepare their own paperwork, fire, that sort of thing. So it's helpful for the lawyer to know what sort of records might be out there so that he can request or she can request them. Concerning injuries, they're going to want to know a list of injuries that you've suffered, right? So they're going to want to talk about, and it's important that you talk not just about what the biggest injury is, right? So, if you're in a car accident and the biggest thing you notice is pain in your back, but you might also have an injury in your knee, or you might have some neck pain, but it's not as important. It's important that you let them know everything, and then you also let them know what are the more significant injuries. Because sometimes over time what happens is one symptom will improve or completely go away. You'll recover and get better, but other parts or other injuries will remain. So it's important that you've identified everything so that in case things change over time. You'll also want to let the lawyer know if you went to the hospital, so that and what doctors you've seen. If you might not know what doctors at the hospital, but what clinics you've gone to and what hospitals you've gone to, so they can request those records. If you've received referral notes, like I said, for physio from your doctor, that sort of thing, it's helpful to bring those in if you have them. It's also important to let the lawyer know if you've had pre-existing injuries, accidents, so that they have an idea of how your injuries have changed if the same part of your body is injured in a previous incident and then is worsened in a subsequent car accident or accident. Concerning work and education, they'll need to know who your employer is, what position or your job title is, what sort of salary you're making, and what sort of hours you're working. And you'll want to let them know if that's changed since the accident. Have your hours gone down? Has your title changed? Are you doing different work because there's certain limitations that you've had as a result of your injuries? You'll also want to let them know what sort of benefits that you have through work. So if you have extended health, if you have short-term disability or long-term disability through work, that can be helpful in making sure that you have the funds that you need while you're recovering from your injury, while you're potentially off work. It's also helpful to let them know about your education history, because obviously the sort of schooling and training you've done can often affect what sort of employment you do. So what sort of questions might you ask a lawyer when you're meeting with them, right? it's not a bad idea to ask them how long they've been working as a personal injury lawyer. Some lawyers change specialties over time, right? So if you have somebody that's been a lawyer for a long time but only been working as a personal injury lawyer for a couple of years or a year, they may not have gained the expertise over time. They may know a lot of stuff about wills or estates or divorce, but they may not have the same experience in personal injury claims. So it's not a bad idea to ask that. It's not a bad idea to ask if you have a claim and what the likelihood of success is with your claim, what the process is going to be like. It's not a bad idea to ask them if the lawyer that you're looking to hire has handled claims that are similar to yours. The lawyer won't be able to tell you about the details of other people's claims, but they can tell you whether they've handled that sort of work before and what the general terms of what the process is like and that sort of thing. It's not a bad idea to ask what sort of compensation that you can expect. You should keep in mind, though, in asking that what sort of compensation the final number is going to be affected by what your recovery is like. So obviously, the best case is you get in a car accident and you're back at work right away. Your injuries heal relatively quickly. That's going to be a better outcome for you, but it's also going to mean a smaller claim. If you're off work for a longer time, if your injuries take a long time to recover or they don't completely resolve, then that will likely result in a larger claim. But everyone would prefer that they just got better, right? And were able to get back to work. It's a good idea to ask, if you think you're going to be off work, how you're going to pay your bills, what sort of assistance might there be. You can talk about what sort of benefits you might have through work, what sort of benefits you might be entitled through ICBC no-fault benefits. There is, when you have a personal injury claim that's a result of a motor vehicle accident, there's kind of two parts to the claim. There's a tort claim, which is like a lawsuit, and the other side of the claim is for no-fault benefits. So if you have a BC driver's license or you're involved in an accident with a motor vehicle in British Columbia, you're entitled to no-fault benefits that should cover things in the immediate term for treatment and for some wage loss benefits and that sort of thing. So that can help bridge the gap until a settlement or resolution of a tort claim. It's important to ask who's going to be handling your claim, because just because you meet with one lawyer at the beginning doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the lawyer that's dealing with your claim all the way through. Sometimes people will go to a firm and they'll say, they'll be the firm like Murphy Battista, and they'll go and they want to meet with Mr. Murphy and only Mr. Murphy, or they want to meet with Mr. Battista and only Mr. Battista. But Mr. Murphy or Mr. Battista might not be the ones handling their claim. In the same way as if you meet with another firm, the name on the firm might not be the lawyer that's handling your claim. So you want to ask if you're meeting with that lawyer, are you the one that's going to be handling my claim? Is it going to be somebody else? Often lawyers work as a team, so one lawyer will be your main contact person and somebody else may also assist them or may also go to trial with them. So if your claim goes to trial. So it's a good idea to ask, who's going to be handling my claim? Is there going to be other lawyers working on the claim? And it's not a bad idea, as I said before, to ask about what sort of other staff might be working on the claim. Are you going to be working with paralegals and legal assistants? And it's not a bad idea to put a name to the face if you can. And as we said before, it's not a bad idea to ask about what lawyers charge. You don't have to sign a fee agreement until you're ready to do that, and it's a good idea that you understand what the lawyer is going to charge, what the fees are, and then you can make a full decision about all of those things, how you feel about the lawyer, whether you think that they have the requisite training and experience, and whether you're comfortable with them. So as I was saying before, you often get that question in the first meeting of what's my claim going to be worth, and the way that I respond to that usually is I say, well, when are you going to get better, or when are you going to get back to work? So I can have an idea of what it might look like depending on on how your injuries get better or worse, or how you get back to work. But I won't have a final idea of what your claim's going to be worth until we kind of have an idea of where you're going to end up. What's it going to look like in the long term? Are the injuries going to get better? Are they going to stick around? What is your work future look like, right? And after a little while after the accident, after you've got some treatment and that sort of thing, then we'll have a better idea of what the long term is going to look like. Unfortunately, somebody stole my crystal ball. So during the meeting with the lawyer, if you have that ability to kind of multitask, or afterwards if you don't, it's a good idea to ask yourself some questions about how the meeting went and whether you want to hire that lawyer or not. Just because you took a free consultation and you met with that lawyer, doesn't mean that you need to sign an agreement with them. There's no obligation in going to a consultation with the lawyer. So first of all, you're going to want to ask whether you trust that person, whether you're comfortable with that person. You're going to want to ask whether they answered all of the questions that you asked, and whether they took the time to answer them in a way that was clear to you. Lawyers can use legal language, and they can talk about they can talk about terms in Latin and all that sort of stuff. But it's important that they take the time to explain what the process is like, what legal concepts mean in layman's terms, so that you can feel comfortable that your lawyer doesn't just know what the process is and what the law is, but they're able to explain it to you in a way that you can make educated decisions about your own case. Is it a good idea to get a second opinion? Yes, do it. It's important that you're confident and comfortable with your lawyer. One way that you can do that is you can go and you can take advantage of a free consultation, meet with a second lawyer. If you're not comfortable with the first one, even if you are comfortable with the first one, go meet with another lawyer, see what they tell you about your claim and how they answer your questions. If things are different between one lawyer and the other, then you might want to ask or figure out why that is. And see who you're comfortable with. If you're not, maybe you're more comfortable with one lawyer or the other. And you can also look at, like we were discussing before, their past judgments to see what their experience is and whether they've handled similar claims. If you end up hiring a lawyer and you find out down the road after you've signed up with that lawyer, signed a contingency fee agreement with them, are you able to change? Yes, you are. It's important that you feel comfortable and confident. So if you're not, you can change lawyers. It just means that that those lawyers will have to talk about how the fee agreement that you've signed is going to be split up. So what portion of the contingency fee agreement is going to be paid by, or is going to be paid to the first lawyer, and how much is the second lawyer. Just like you can change doctors midway through treatment, you can change lawyers. you don't have to call, like if you choose to fire your lawyer to move on to a different lawyer because you're more comfortable with a different lawyer, you don't have to call the first lawyer and tell them that you're no longer need their services or no longer working for them. That lawyer, the second lawyer you hire, can call them, can deal with them, and can discuss how arrangements will be made concerning the fee. So you don't have to, just like when you change with doctors, you don't have to go into the first doctor office and say, I didn't like what you told me, so now I'm going with Dr. Bob now. All right, so that's the basics of hiring a lawyer and what sort of questions to ask. All right. Does anybody have any questions and want to be on video camera?
I was curious what kind of expenses disbursements, like what's an example?
Yeah, so in a personal injury claim, typical disbursements are things like, for example, medical records, employment records, sending. We're getting more and more electronic as things move on, but there's some cost with sending letters and that sort of thing. And also hiring doctors to do medical legal reports. So they'll write, you'll go to see a specialist, and that specialist will do a medical legal assessment. And because it's not for treatment, they can't bill the government for it. So that is billed usually to it's billed to the client, but often firms will cover the cost of that and then recover it from ICBC or the defendant in the end. Yeah.
How long does litigation normally take?
It really depends. You don't want to settle a claim before you know what your baseline is going to be, right? So you don't want. Often ICBC will make an offer for $1,000 or $5,000 when somebody's in what they think is a relatively small vendor bender. But then, and sometimes it takes people a day or two for particularly with soft tissue injuries, for it to show up, right? Initially, people the adrenaline kicks in, you power through, you go to work, you're dealing with things, and then sometimes it takes 24 hours or when you go to sleep that night, then you realize, oh, well, I'm in pain, I'm not really able to, you're stirring all night, right? And a lot of people are can-do, so they think, hey, I'm going to get better, don't worry about it, I can power through. And for some people, a relatively small amount of money sounds like a lot if you're not thinking, hey, I'm going to be off work for a period of time, or I'm going to be in pain for a long period of time. So it's important that you don't settle your claim before you know what the future is, what the next little bit looks like, right? So if you're going to be off work for a long period of time, $1,000 or $5,000 quickly evaporates away if you're missing a number of months of work, right? In the same way as you don't want to settle your claim for less if it turns out you're going to be experiencing a whole lot of pain and you're going to need help potentially doing certain activities. You're going to miss out on certain things that you like doing, right? It's important that you know that you're going to be able to get back to work, that you're going to be able to get back to life and the things you like doing before you settle your claim.
For things like catastrophic injuries, where you potentially have a disability for the rest of your life, these things generally take longer, right? Like a year, 2 years, 3 years to actually
it can take a few years to get to trial, or to settle a claim, and a lot of that time is taken up depending on if you get back to work relatively early, your injuries more or less heal in a short period of time, then that will likely settle or get resolved earlier. If in cases where things where recovery time is longer, and if it takes a long time for treatment to take place, if you're on the list to get a surgery, but the surgery hasn't taken place yet, you don't know what the result of the surgery is going to be until you have the surgery, time passes, and you've gone through the recovery process, and then you know what kind of the outlook is going to be for work and for your life. So in more catastrophic claims, yeah, it takes a longer period of time, and that's largely linked to figuring out precisely what the outcome is going to be in terms of treatment. Yeah.
I also just wanted to note as well that sometimes a lawyer will work with you pro bono. It depends on the situation. Like for me, I actually worked with Joe Murphy, and I had no claim, but he still helped me deal with ICBC and stuff. So sometimes you'll find lawyers who are generous with their time and want to help anyway.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So it is even if you think you don't have a tort claim, whether you think the other you're at fault for the accident and that sort of thing, it might still make sense. It will make sense for you to go in and take advantage of a free consultation, meet with the lawyer. They can tell you what the likelihood of success in a claim is once you tell them about how the accident happened and that sort of thing. And even if they tell you that you likely can't proceed with a claim, some people find it helpful to go and meet with that lawyer and at least have the closure of knowing, hey, look, I did everything I could to get better and to make sure I protected my rights, that sort of thing. But also there's like I was discussing before, there's benefits that you can be entitled to even if you're at fault for an accident. So the no-fault benefits for treatment and for wage loss are available as long as you qualify, even if you're at fault for an accident. So it's not a bad idea to go and meet with a lawyer and find out about those benefits. And even if you think you might be might not have a claim or you might be at fault for an accident. Yeah.
Okay. My son was in an ATV accident on a dirt road, not a service road, and there was insurance on the ATV, liability insurance. I don't have any information on it, so I don't want to sue the kid who owns the bike. I just want to know if the liability is something I should pursue.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea for your son to meet with a lawyer and talk about the details. I'd need more information about the accident to kind of give you an assessment of whether I think there would be a claim there. And perhaps we could talk about that after we finish rolling here.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay. All righty.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.